What is up, everybody? Today I am joined by a friend of mine, joined by Andrew. It's a pilot episode of, we don't even know what we're going to call it, but new show here. We're going to talk some ball. I am your host, Zach. Here is my co-host, Andrew. Andrew, how you doing tonight, man? Excited to be here with you.
I'm doing good, bro. It is so good. Yeah, we are going to have to figure out a name for the show, but I mean, if you think about it, it's been low-key like 6 months in the making. August 9th, 2025 was the PFL Atlantic City card, and we've been talking about doing something ever since then. So I can't wait to let it rip. Let's go.
Definitely. We will have to find a name. I guess we'll have something in the making, but this will fall under the Around the Octagon banner. So for everyone listening, you can find the podcast, find everything how you normally find the Around the Octagon episodes. Maybe we will collaborate on the YouTube. Haven't really figured out the logistics there yet, but beside the point, do not want to bore you all with that. Andrew, there was some fun fights last weekend, man. I know you were tuned in. What did you make of the card in general before we really dive into it?
I had told people all year that the first ever card at the Metapex is what we're calling it. The UFC Meta Apex was gonna be more better than people thought. I was very excited for the main event. We'll talk about that. Bantamweight might be the best division in the UFC right now. So 2 top 15 ranked bantamweights is always going to be fun. You got Gooch and the co-main and a lot more. So it was nice to just have a fun weekend of MMA. Obviously not as big stakes as the last 2 weekends before, but that was fun. PFL was fun. We're going to talk all about it, baby. Let's go.
Definitely, man. And this UFC card, I will say as well, like for just the first Metapex card of the year, the first non-numbered event of the year, there was a lot of talent on it. There was talent early on in the card, and there was a decent amount of talent that got cut from the promotion, actually, which we will get into. But kind of starting here from the top of the card, the main event, Super Mario Bautista, which he is not called. John Anik does call him that, though. I think it's an absolutely hilarious nickname, but he absolutely goes out there and dismantles Vinicius Oliveira. That wasn't even a competitive fight, nowhere close to it. And now if you're Mario Bautista, you got to be looking towards the top of this division. There's really not too many names that really excite you if you're Mario Bautista. If you think about it, Andrew, where do you think they go with Mario Bautista next?
I was so impressed with Mario Bautista this weekend. I'd felt good about him. He was our big red bet of the week. We had 4 units on him, money line. I was concerned about Vinicius Oliveira going in, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. But I mean, how can you not be impressed with the performance of Mario Bautista? It was interesting to hear him talk in the post-fight press conference and do a couple interviews this week, kind of who he wants next. He's mentioned that Corey Sandhagen name quite a bit. That's obviously who he fought and lost to in his UFC debut. That's a name I'd like to see, but it sounds like Corey's been banged up. Read rumors that Corey was supposed to be fighting Amin Zahabi, and that fight is now off. So I would love to see a Mario Bautista Amin Zahabi fight. I think that's one guy in particular that I'd like to see. The other name that's been thrown around is Sugar Sean O'Malley, but obviously Sean O'Malley and him are quite close. So I'm not sure if there's any need to book that now. But my opinion today, if you put me in the matchmaking room, I'm putting him against Amin Zahabi, 2 guys that feel like they're very talented, but maybe 1 tier below the upper echelon of 135 pounds.
Very interesting, Amin Zahabi. I'm curious to hear. So, did you hear that it was Corey Sandhagen that pulled out of that fight? Because I thought I heard it was Zahabi. So I'm curious to hear who it was that did pull out of that fight. Actually,
maybe it was. I know that fight was rumored. I think Ariel Helwani had reported that fight was almost ready to go, like being booked, and somebody broke their hand.
Yeah, it was reported that was because I did listen. I heard Helwani say that was reported. I believe it was Zahabi that did pull out, though, leaving that Corey Sandhagen matchup there. And Sugar Sean O'Malley, that's an interesting one as well, because I know they were teammates. I know Sugar Sean O'Malley used to rep the MMA Lab Banter. So they have a lot of history as well. So you'd think that they would probably like to avoid that matchup for as long as possible. But it is funny, given that, like, if I'm matchmaking Sean O'Malley, I would probably matchmake him with Corey Sandhagen. And if I'm matchmaking Mario Bautista, I mean, if you're looking above him right now, there aren't really too many names that are really catching your eye here. I mean, you have the loss to Umar Nurmagomedov, obviously. If you're crossing off Sean O'Malley, you're not – Marab's going to be booked with Piotr Yan. Song Yadong coming off the loss.
I actually kind of think that Song Yadong or Steveson Figueiredo is the other name. I'm not sure because Mario Bautista, basically got to fight the guy. Whenever you're fighting a guy who had just fought for the title in his last fight, it's a huge step up, right? So he had that big opportunity against Umar. He didn't get it. Now I think even with the win against Vinicius Oliveira, I still think you need one more before you go back into like that top 3. So I don't think a Song Yadong or a Steveson Figueiredo, if if Corey's booked or whatever, is out of the line. Song, very close fight against Sean O'Malley. He's still top 5. I think he's ranked 5th. Davison Figueiredo, he also lost to Umar Nurmagomedov this year. Nothing to spat at there. So I think one of those 3 guys is probably next for Mario Bautista.
Yeah, agreed there. And just on the topic of Davison Figueiredo, while we're on it, dude, that guy has just fought absolute fucking killers in the bantamweight division. Like, they're not giving this guy easy fights, man.
There is no easy fight in the bantamweight division, but for Davison Figueiredo in particular, I think to me what was so impressive is I really actually doubted him when he had lost the 4th fight to Brandon Moreno, and he moved up. You know, he had that 3-fight win streak that everyone forgets about. He came in and he beat Rob Font, and then he choked out Cody Garbrandt, UFC 300. That was an impressive performance, and then he beat Chito Vera. I mean, the guy had like 3 top 15 wins. But I think as soon as Davison fought the real guys at bantamweight, right, got beat up by Piotr Yan, got beat up by Corey Sandhagen, got beat up by Umar Nurmagomedov. I mean, obviously those are not, you know, terrible fighters at all, but I think Mario Bautista would also kind of beat him, but it'd be an interesting matchup. I'd love to see it.
Yeah, definitely, man, definitely. And now kind of moving on a little bit, the flip side of that Mario Bautista fight, Vinicius Lockdog Oliveira. I mean, really, really tough performance for him. He just looked like he got absolutely ragdolled. I know he came out right after and pretty much said he was hurt, or not pretty much. He did verbatim say he was hurt. How much are you really factoring that into how that fight played out? Because, I mean, he looked like a fish out of water there, man.
I have not been as high on Vinicius Oliveira as Lockdog as many other people have been. I think there are just a lot of flaws in his game. The name that always comes up with him is Yuri Prohashka. Like, he's a bantamweight Yuri, just like coming forward. That performance that he put on Kyler Phillips last year is kind of the one that really kind of narrowed it down for me. And I just think basically what I thought was going to happen this weekend happened. And the reason I had a problem with that and why I don't think the injury really played a factor is I thought when he would run into a guy who can strike with him on the feet, is defensively responsible, has a chin, and can take him down, right, being able to stop his offensive pressure, I thought he was going to struggle. So maybe he's got to go back into camp. He's obviously ridiculously athletic. That flying knee he hit in his UFC debut is an absurd knockout. The guy has athleticism for days. I think maybe he needs to move up to 145 pounds, and I'd be curious to hear your opinion on that. But I don't know how much an injury or whatever played into this weekend as much as the matchup. Mario's a tough out. If Jose Aldo is losing to you on the feet, you know, and is struggling to really land any offense on you, I'm not sure how Vinicius Oliveira is. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I agree, man. And he just looked like he was telegraphing a bunch of his shots too, man. And I guess that's what happens when you're so big and you cut so much weight. You're not 100% in there. And I do lean to agree with you that he should move up a weight class. I think this fight was very telling once he got up there towards the top of the top competition in the division. Now, there's a lot of factors kind of factoring in here. You have the big weight cut, right? You also have the potential injury, and then you have the step up in competition. So I don't know what it was exactly that caused Vinicius Oliveira to look the way he did. Is it all the things combined? I don't know. Very well could be. I would lean on the side of, yes, he should move up. When the whole fight week comes about to be about your weight cut and you not looking great, is that the narrative you want surrounded by your whole fight week? Like, it just feels off there, man. And again, if you look the way he did this past Saturday against Mario Bautista, who I do think is towards the top, but is not the pinnacle of this division, I think it is time for him to look at a new weight class, kind of look at reinvigorating yourself a little bit. And it's funny saying that because he was just on such a heater. So to say you need to reinvigorate yourself, yes, that does sound a bit ridiculous, but I do think it would serve him well to move up a weight class here. And I have a feeling you're going to agree with me on that one.
I 100% do. And I also think, look, I know he was on this run before this fight, but to me, it's also, it's not just about you losing, it's how you lose, right? Like, so we're not, after we watched Song Yudong lose to Sean O'Malley 2 weeks ago in a fight that I actually thought he won, we're not going, oh man, Song needs to move up to 145, or he's just not going to cut it. It's a close loss against a former UFC champion. Right? This fight, he was outclassed from the beginning, and like 4 minutes into the fight, he was exhausted. You could tell he's had a gas tank problem since Contender Series, but he's just too big. Now the problem I have is at 145, the way he fights right now is even more detrimental. Like, he had the ability to kind of walk through those like top 15-ish guys at 135. He could kind of just take a shot to give a shot, and that's how he was going to walk those guys down. But I mean, like, you can't walk down like Josh Emmett. You just can't. Like, you're not going to be able to withstand that power when you're moving up in weight, and you're actually going to be fighting guys who are just as big, if not bigger than you. So, look, he's super athletic. Maybe he can go back to his camp and figure out something, but he clearly has some grappling deficiencies, clearly has some cardio deficiencies, and we'll see. We'll see.
And one thing I do want to point out about the gas tank, and it's very apparent when you're not fighting your style of fight and you're not the one imposing your style, how much your gas tank really factors in. Like, look at Khamzat Chimaev, for example. Look at him in a 3-round fight against Gilbert Burns or against Kamaru Usman, right, where he's not just completely dictating terms, and you see the gas tank factor in. Then you look in a 5-round fight against DDP, where he's in control the whole time fighting his fight, right? He's not getting tired. When Vinicius Oliveira is able to dictate terms and he's able to just walk you down, it's not as tiring compared to when you have Mario Bautista just initiating these scrambles, again, kind of dictating terms, putting the pace on you. And that really did play a factor on Vinicius Lockdog Oliveira Saturday night.
I 100% agree. It's an excellent point. And even more than that, those top guys at bantamweight are all cardio machines. Umar is a cardio machine. He out-cardioed Mario Bautista, and look at what Mario Bautista just did. Sandhagen is a cardio machine. I thought Sean O'Malley looked really good in a 3-round fight. He had that war with Petr Yan, and he was able to figure that stuff out. Any of those guys in the top 5 at 135 are just going to be monstrous problems for someone if you're going to gas out before them. They're just too good.
Yeah, and a lot of them are very good at dictating their style of fight as well. Difficult here for Vinicius Lockdog Oliveira. Curious to see what he does next. Now, moving on, a fun story. Kyogi Horiguchi, picks up another win here. Looks absolutely phenomenal. And I mean phenomenal. Now, looking at the flyweight division here, Andrew, there's not too many names above Mr. Horiguchi now. He comes in ranked number 5th. And I'm very curious, like, looking at the division, how you would go about matchmaking the top there.
I love Gooch. I've been on the Kyogi Horiguchi train a long time. Like, when your one loss in the UFC is like a prime Demetrius Johnson, like, there's just absolutely nothing to scoff at. And I thought, look, he looked good in Qatar last year against Tagir Ulanbekov. He looked amazing against Amir Albazi. And Amir Albazi is not, look, I don't think he's fantastic, but I mean, that's a guy who beat Kai Kara France over 5 rounds. That's a guy who was outclassed by Brandon Moreno, but Brandon Moreno did not beat Amir Albazi anywhere near the way Kyogi Horiguchi beat Amir Albazi last Saturday. I was really impressed by him. As for matchmaking, I think I think 125 is like the trickiest division maybe to book right now, because you have so many names and you have such an uncertainty around the champion. Joshua Van obviously wins the title last year with that freak elbow injury from Alexandre Pantoja. And now you're kind of in this medium where it feels like Pantoja isn't ready to go yet. I haven't heard anything from his camp, but feels like he won't be ready until like August. What do you got?
Nothing too good there, but I was just saying in general, I know he is training at the least, and I think they were targeting a return by like midsummer to mid Q3.
Yeah, so I kind of feel like Joshua Van will fight before that. I know that now it's kind of late now, but the UFC 326, the BMF, the Oliveira Holloway title fight has a TBD versus TBD in the co-main event. And I know that Joshua Van and Manel Kape were bickering back and forth on Twitter about taking that co-main event spot. I actually think that there's a lot of tie-in between Joshua Van and Max Holloway. People call him the mini Max Holloway. He has a very similar fan base, I think. So I think it would be smart to put him on that card. We're less than a month out. Feels like you don't want to be booking a title fight 3 weeks from now. But I kind of feel like you will get a Joshua Van against Manel Kape or Tatsuro Taira before this summer, and then Pantoja. And I think that's the one problem with Horiguchi. He broke his hand, so we could talk about the delays on that. But the one problem with Gooch is, look, he's right there. He's looked as good as anyone. He's getting older. They might want to chuck him into a title shot, but it's going to be really hard to overlook the 3-fight win streak that Manel Kape has put forward and that monstrous win that Tatsuro Taira had against Brandon Moreno. So we'll see.
Dude, it's like, if you're putting those 3 guys there and you're like, which one do you think is most deserving to fight the champion? And you're giving me Manel Kape, Tatsuro Taira, and Kyogi Horiguchi, dude, I don't know how to answer the question. Then you're going to say, like, hey man, like, by the way, we don't even know which champion we're talking about. Like,
Yeah.
what is going on with this division? When are they going to make a matchup? I do not know. Like, this is one of the divisions in which I think like they just need to start getting stuff going. Like, I know Kyoji Horiguchi obviously just fought, and that's why we're talking about him right now. But you just have this influx of people towards the top, similar to like the welterweight division, where there's a lot of names where like I think you can kind of pick any of them out of a hat and they can get that shot. Where it's like we just need to pick one and get on with the division. I think at this point almost, man. And I don't know who it's going to be. I'm curious to see when Pantoja will be back.
Well, and I think that's kind of the problem is you feel like as soon as Pantoja is healthy and ready to go, he needs to be fighting for the championship. Guy was on guy defended his title 4 times in a row. He fought 8 seconds and broke his elbow. Like, it's just, there's no scenario where he should be fighting in a title eliminator or anything like that. You cannot definitively say Joshua Van is the best 125 pounder on the planet. You can't make that distinction right now. I think Van Kape is just a fantastic matchup. That's probably the one I would actually book right now. There's a lot of heat there. They've been bickering back and forth on Twitter. I think Kape has superstar potential. That knockout he had against Brandon Royval at the end of last year was just incredible. But it's very similar to welterweight. You're right. There's like 6 guys who could end the year as UFC champion. It's wild to think about. What do you think about a Tatsuro Taira versus Kyoji Horiguchi fight in Japan?
That's
Japan versus Japan.
If you're a Japanese fan, dude, I'd be pissed if they booked that in Japan. I mean, I know you want a big show coming, but like, don't you want 2 of your boys going and fighting some Americans or fighting some sort of foreigner, and they're gonna make this whole show around like the 2 guys you love most, and they're fucking fighting each other? I'd be like, God damn it! Like, this is absolutely brutal. But
you could put Manel Kape in Japan, right? Former Rizvan bantamweight champion, fought in Japan for like 5 years. He's got a big Japanese fan base. You could put him against one of the Japanese guys if you needed to as well. But I don't know.
I think that's a great idea. I think that's a great idea. I mean, as far as the matchup goes, I really do think that Manel Kape versus Joshua Van is the way that the UFC would want to go. But then yet again, I mean, you have the Japanese market, the untapped Japanese market in a sense, if we want to call it untapped. It's funny saying that. I don't believe they've had a UFC champion, Japan.
No UFC champion ever.
Yeah, absolutely nuts. I guess you do have that on-tap market there, so maybe they would look towards Tatsuro Taira, but like you touched on, there is just a lot of juice behind that Manel Kape Joshua Van matchup. They very much dislike each other. I heard Manel Kape talking about Joshua Van today. I saw the clip. I don't know when he was talking, but it was like, describe Joshua Van in 5 words, and it was just 5 offensive, some vulgar words to describe Joshua Van from Manel Kape. So, man, those guys want to fight each other, and I was big on like not wanting to see Van fight anyone until it was Pantoja, but they just got to get on with this, man. And in all honesty, the person who got fucked most by Pantoja getting hurt is Kyoji Horiguchi, because they would have made that fight. I very much do think so if Pantoja did not get hurt.
Yeah, I agree. Well, and also I don't even think they would have booked this Albazi matchup. Like, I think the biggest flaw to anything is Kyoji beats Amir Albazi, and he's only ranked like 5th, right? Moreno's 1 spot behind him, I guess. But if he had beaten Moreno, I think he would have just gotten blown up. And now you've got Loner Kavanaugh fighting Brandon Moreno in a couple weeks, which is a questionable matchmaking.
That is funny to think about as well. Just that win over Moreno is so much more of a catapult up in the division opposed to beating Amir Albazi. He just doesn't carry that same name recognition, as Brandon Moreno does. But moving on now, the next matchup, oh God, I mean, there was some repercussions that happened due to this one, but Rizvan Kuniev takes out JAILTON ALMEIDA in what a lot of people are calling a boring decision. I think Rizvan Kuniev kind of just did what he had to do in a difficult matchup against a not too active JAILTON ALMEIDA, to be quite honest. So it is hard for me to be too critical of the boringness of Rizvan Kuniev coming off this fight. But JAILTON ALMEIDA, that's kind of the one I want to talk about here. Loses the fight, right? Then he comes out, his team goes in, informs the UFC he will be moving down to light heavyweight, which he was 4-0 at, I believe 4-0 in the UFC, 4-0 in the light heavyweight division, then gets cut from the roster, announced today. Andrew, I know you're not a proponent of the UFC cutting guys that are winning fights. What do you make of this whole situation here in general?
It's wild. That's the most high profile cut I think we've had in probably since Muhammad Mokaev got cut after UFC 304 beating Manel Kape, going back to that flyweight division, of course. Like, that was the other guy where I was like, JAILTON's not undefeated, but he was an undefeated guy who probably should have been fighting for the title next, and they were like, we're just going to cut him. Look, JAILTON has done himself absolutely no favors. And I think that's kind of my problem is the craziest thought more than anything. And I had to go back and check this. UFC 299, the featured prelim of that was in Miami. The featured prelim was Curtis Blades, JAILTON Almeida. Almeida takes down Blades 7 times in the first round. He basically just has to sit on the guy for 10 more minutes. And Blades won that fight. And Blades went on to fight Tom Aspinall for the interim championship at UFC 304 because John wasn't there or whatever. So Almeida was 10 minutes away. Remember, he gets elbowed in the head like 10 times, and that was it. And he loses, and it's kind of been a downhill spiral from there. But he was 10 minutes away from fighting for the interim UFC championship, and he got cut this morning. Like, it's just a wild turn of events. But on the other hand, his performance against Alexander Volkov in an important matchup last year at UFC 321 in Abu Dhabi that was being billed as the winner of this is going to fight Tom Aspinall when he blows through Cyril Gane. That fight was atrocious, and he lost. I don't know if he deserved to lose, but he lost. And then this fight was atrocious. So it's like it didn't even look like he wanted to be there. And that's where you lose me. Look, he's winning fights. I 100% understand. He is probably a top 10. He is a top 10 heavyweight in the world. But in this new Paramount era, with an entertainment company running your TV rights, they want to see the blood and guts. They want to see knockouts or submit or something. And he didn't do that.
Yeah, man. I mean, I would argue that JAILTON Almeida is a top 10 heavyweight and a top 15 light heavyweight in the world, to be quite honest with you. I mean, you have Dustin Jacoby cracking into the light heavyweight rankings, and I'd argue that JAILTON Almeida would fare pretty well in a snooze fest against Dustin Jacoby if he's able to just hold on to him for 15 minutes. I know Jacoby would fare well on the feet, but I don't think that fight would play out on the feet. So yeah, I mean, he is high level to an extent, but I get it. He's boring, but it kind of just shows that like the UFC, it's not a meritocracy. It's not a sport. It's not who's going to be the best. It's who's doing the most for the company, who's making the most amount of money for us. And yeah, man, it's a business at the end of the day. And JAILTON Almeida isn't making them dollars, I guess. So they gotta move on from that investment.
But that's the other thing. If you're gonna be JAILTON Almeida, you need to just win. Like, look, Movsar Evloev should have fought for a title a year ago, but at least because he wins, he doesn't lose. He is now in a spot where he can beat Lerone Murphy and presumably fight for the belt, right? But if you're boring and you start losing, Almeida's on a 2-fight losing streak. I think he's lost 3 of his last 5. Yeah, then there's nothing. Then you're not winning, and you're boring. Like then you're in danger of getting cut. So either he needed to be undefeated forever, or he needed to become exciting. And he did. I 100% agree. He would have been a great light heavyweight. I think he had a fight at light heavyweight in Brazil, like pretty early on in his UFC career. But like, do you want him going to beat up some of your guys? Like he laid on Derek Lewis for 25 minutes and that set Derek Lewis back a year and a half. Like, do you want him to go beat light heavyweights you want to build up? No, you just don't.
Yeah, I believe he had multiple light heavyweight wins early in his career. It was like 2 or 3 of them before he ended up moving up to the heavyweight division full time there. Dude, I don't know. Like, I'm still just another thing, and this is something I find interesting, is like he might have dug himself a bit of a hole here by how much success he had early in his UFC run. And what I mean by that is you're winning fights, right? And he's a long-time UFC vet. He's renegotiating his contract. He's getting contract extensions. You know, he's not making a small amount of money here. When you're co-maining a pay-per-view card, right? You're headlining fight nights, which he has headlined handful of at this point, almost
at home in Brazil.
He's getting paid, man, and not cheap money. So to the point of like, all right, if we're paying you a couple hundred to show, a couple hundred to win, and you're putting on snooze fest, that's when it becomes to the point where it's like, we need to get rid of you, where you can have a more boring fighter on who isn't as good as JAILTON Almeida, but they're not getting paid as much, and maybe they stay on the roster there. But I'd argue that probably factored into some level as well as to how much they wanted to get rid of JAILTON Almeida.
Yeah. Straight to the PFL.
Yeah, dude. And this really makes you think, like, at the end of the day, there's no talent here in the light heavyweight. Like, they cut Martin Buday. What do you make about that? Like, is that a guy who, like, they're probably fine with still not having him on the roster now? Do you think they have any regrets there?
See, that one made no sense to me because he was winning and he wasn't actually that boring. Like, he had that really weird win over
Buchecha,
I think. Yeah. which was weird. But like he was 8-1 or 8-0-1. He might have been undefeated in the UFC. Like, and close training partner Tom Aspinall. You want to keep your champion happy, I guess. Like that one made no sense to me. Heavyweight is a wasteland right now. Like it's the worst division in the sport by a hot country mile. Like women's bantamweight is way better than heavyweight because at least you have something. I'm not even joking. Like Aspinall's out. His eyes are redder than a tomato. He's done till like late summer at least. You got Cyril Gane on the sideline. Like, we're going to get excited about Cyril Gane again because he looked good for 4 minutes. Like, he got choked out in a minute by Jones. He almost lost a tie to Ivasa.
It's compared to Juliana Pena as the #1 contender.
No,
I don't know.
I would rather watch Kayla Harrison and Amanda Nunes fight. I'm taking women's bantamweight. I would rather watch Kayla Harrison and Amanda Nunes fight. Oh, look, Kayla Harrison's awesome. Like, she's cool. Yes. Look, there might be nobody else, but Kayla Harrison choked Kimura and Juliana Pena in like 6 minutes was amazing. I would rather watch that than these heavyweight slop fests. They are bad. They're like you've got Aspinall, you've got, and now I feel stronger than ever that Pereira has to move up. And I've never been on that train. I've always thought like I'll see Pereira Olberg, I'll watch Pereira Prohaska a third time. Send Alex to heavyweight because he'll be the only exciting thing. And if he's just knocking out like a Sergey Spivak every 3 months, great. At least there's something. It is so bad. It's embarrassing. And you want to know the most embarrassing part? I would love to get your opinion on this. The most embarrassing part is there is heavyweight talent. You and I were just texting about Rico Verhoeven. Why the hell is he not in the UFC? Why is France Ngannou not in the UFC? Why is Vadim Nemkov, who's now like remade himself into this incredible heavyweight in PFL, not in the UFC? The number 5, who's the number 5 ranked heavyweight right now? It's embarrassing.
Number 5 is, I mean, that's going to be, where's Waldo? Like, Waldo's kind of the man, bro.
Waldo actually might be pretty good. Waldo actually, yeah. But once again, had to completely reinvent himself. Like, don't forget, Waldo's last win in 2024 before he went on that crazy streak was when he sat on Rebeles de Spain for 15 minutes, right?
True.
And that was awful. That was a stinker. So, one thing about Waldo,
I will say though, one thing about Waldo is he did get into mixed martial arts later on in his career, and like heavyweights do have a longer shelf life. So there is like a longer back half of the career where I think he will be improving more than some other heavyweights.
I'm not going to be able to get that excited about Waldo Cortez Acosta, man. Like,
hey, you know who you can get excited for? And is the man who I picked as my heavyweight champion by the end of 2026. And that is Gable Steveson, who I think will be debuting. Gable Steveson. That's just how thin I think this division is. Like, I legitimately, full-heartedly think. And like, dude, I've gotten into debates online where like so many people are just like, you're a fucking idiot. And I'm like, all right, dude. All right, whatever. This division is just so insanely thin where I actually do think that Gable Steveson can be the champion of this division by the end of the year. And again, here's something that I kind of wanted to get into later in this episode here, this podcast, but we can talk about it now. And it's really the White House matchmaking, because I think it does tie into Gable Steveson here a bit. I think Gable is going to debut on that White House card, right?
Has to.
And we can get into like the matchmaking actually a little bit later, but just I think he will debut on that White House card, right? And that'll be in June. Then he'll be fighting July, August potentially, right? I mean, quick turnaround. I don't see him taking too much damage. If he is going and he's fighting in August, like let's say like a Curtis Blades potentially, like because he could be debuting, he's going to debut somewhere in the rankings. Like they're not going to want an unranked fighter on the White House card, so you can be debuting against like I don't know, man, like maybe a Tybura. Somewhere around like the 10 range.
You have to be careful. I think the one thing, I mean, I wouldn't doubt. Hey, we say they don't want unranked.
Walter Walker.
I would not put him against Walter Walker.
I think he kills. I think Walter Walker, like that's just a rough matchup for Walter. Like extremely
4
rough.
hooks in a row. Wait,
yeah, but against all guys that can't grapple, who have zero wrestling, have zero anything, and then now you're gonna have a guy who can just blast you through the cage and just pounce your face in. And like Walter wouldn't even want to fight that fight. Walter would be like, no, like give me someone out of the rankings. I would rather not take this. This sucks. Maybe they go Mick Parkin though. Like Mick Parkin could be a very easy
that's
matchup.
a guy. Tom
Right.
Aspinall teammate, English fighter, USA England. Like, that's a matchup I would think about. He's your gold. Like, he is the savior of this division. I mean, I am still very high on Tom Aspinall. I've been a Tom Aspinall guy since he like made his UFC debut. So I will never leave the Tom Aspinall train. I still think he's the best heavyweight in the world. He was going to beat Cyril Gane. I feel strong about that. I picked him to end the year as the champ. I don't hate the Gable Steveson pick because there's no one else. And there's like totally a shot that it's like Alex Pereira versus John Jones at the White House for the belt. And like Steveson could be in that at the end of the year. But
and like the thing is though, is if you were to fight a Mick Parkin, then you go and you jump like up in the rankings to like a Spivak by, I don't know, come August, September, October, and then, you know, December. It's not that unrealistic, especially if Cyril Gane's holding that belt. If Cyril Gane is able to take that off Tom Aspinall, that is such a tailor-made matchup for a round one finish for Gable Steveson. He will do exactly what John Jones did. I just verbatim. Cyril Gane is, again, like I've said this, he's like a fish out of water when it comes to the grappling department. Terrible matchup for Cyril Gane there, and like that's how I can see it happening. Now, do I see Cyril Gane beating Tom Aspinall? Not if Tom Aspinall actually decides to grapple, then no. But I don't know. That's a story too yet to be told. But kind of moving on a little bit and staying on the topic of this card, I got a little bit off topic talking about the White House. It was a little premature, but Michal Oleksiejczuk really turned it on round 3 to pick up the win here over power bar Marc-Andre Barriault. What do you make of Michal Oleksiejczuk's resurrection since joining the Fighting Nerds?
He's genuinely like one of the more underrated, exciting guys in the UFC right now. He had that weird fight against Kevin Holland in Newark. I think we were both at that fight actually, where he kind of knocked down Kevin Holland, and then he's got his arm trapped in the arm bar and got finished from there. But you know, 2 first-round finishes and this win, so 3-fight win streak in a row. He blew through GM3, he blew through Cedric Dumas. Like, he's an exciting guy that you could really chuck on like any European card if needed. He's a fun 185-pound guy, and like 185 pounds can always use more of them. I was impressed with him. I thought he had a decently fun fight against Char Bullet earlier in his career. Like he has increased his game, you know, tenfold. He went from losing to Michel Pereiras and Kevin Hollands of the world, and like Marc-Andre Barriault is absolutely no slouch.
Yeah, and speaking of Char Bullet, I actually kind of want to give Marc-Andre Barriault a little bit of a shout out here. I know a lot of people kind of discredited his chin, and they were saying his chin was going. It's held up against 2 fucking hard hitters now with Char Bullet and Michal Oleksiejczuk, both of those going to decision. So clearly that chin is proven to still be holding up there, I will say.
He's had a couple problems with it in the past. I know that Dustin Stoltzfus knockout wasn't great, but yes, he's looked very good as of late. He had that ridiculous knockout against Bruno Silva when he elbowed him in the head and he cracked his skull open. That was sick. And then that fight with Char Bullet was incredible. That was like one of the best fights of the year. And then, you know, last weekend was pretty good as well. I will never be down on Marc-Andre Barriault. He's a Quebec legend. Anytime they go to Montreal or basically anywhere in Canada, he'll sell. So, yeah, it was fun.
Definitely, man. And kind of moving down this card a little bit more now, Farid Basharat remains undefeated here. What did you make of that close decision with Jean Matsumoto, and kind of where do you put Basharat's ceiling?
Now, I had a bet on Jean Matsumoto. I was really impressed with the way Jean Matsumoto fought Rob Font last year. He was scheduled to fight Dominic Cruz. Cruz pulled out. He fought Rob Font, and I was really impressed with that. I thought Matsumoto was just an excellent boxer. I thought his movement was good, and then I thought Matsumoto looked really good against Miles Johns. I know that was a split decision, but it was a close fight. So I was like, wow, I think Matsumoto was like plus 240, plus 250. I was like, I feel pretty good about putting some money on this, and I was just totally wrong. I know the third round was close, and I know it was shaky, but I felt like Basharat was the right winner. He had I think maybe just some cardio problems, but that first like round and a half, Farid was piecing him up. Like his movement, he's so comfortable at range. Him and his brother really, but him more than anything. He's impressive. Do I think he's championship caliber at bantamweight? No, probably not. But do I think he's top 15? Like, would I pick him to beat, like, I don't know, Kyler Phillips? Yeah, maybe. I think I would. He's undefeated, good movement, knockout power. Just got to work on that cardio a little bit.
Dude, I'm honestly very impressed with the composure of Farid Basharat. Like when you see him in the cage, he looks like someone who belongs there. I was also very impressed with his performance. I'm someone who also does think highly of Jean Matsumoto. I think he's a very solid prospect. So picking up that win in a close split decision there and I also was of the mind that he won that fight. I thought it was a 29-28 his direction. So clearly he thought the fight was close, though, because if you saw his reaction when that split was announced, he was like, thank fucking God, and still undefeated. So very good stuff there, but not so good news for the Basharat family. His brother, Javid, was actually released following.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah. Another guy released on a win, 4-2-1 in the UFC, released from the roster. So you're finding that out now. What do you make of that news?
I mean, I don't know. That Gianni Vasquez fight from last weekend wasn't great. I'm going back to look at his losses. So obviously, like, he got blasted to the moon by Ricky Simone. Like, that was one of the craziest knockouts I've ever seen. He basically just eats the cleanest right hand ever, is laying flat on the canvas for like 20 minutes. He lost to Ayman Zahabi. That's kind of whack. I guess. I don't know. I mean, it's a little early. Usually you see more cuts in June and July when Contender Series starts getting rolling around, because they basically just bring in like 70 new guys. But just surprising, like, you like one brother so much and you feel like he's got some potential. Like, may as well just keep the other 4-2 coming off a win. But like I said, man, they're cleaning house. They want these tighter rosters. They're trying to slim these cards down a little bit. I'm not shocked. It's a little questionable, but I'm not shocked.
And what was it? Do you think it was them sitting there being like, all right, well, obviously, see, Nurmagomedov pulled out, then you have Gianni Vasquez stepping in on short notice, making his UFC debut? Was it one of those things where it's like, if you can't get this guy out of here, you got to be gone? But at the same time, man, it's difficult to prepare with the opponent changes late. Like, I don't know, if you're going to force him to get a finish, stay in the promotion, which it kind of seems like that's the direction they went. That's extremely tough, man.
He's never gotten a finish in the UFC. I think that might be part of it too. Like, he's lost by brutal knockout. I don't think he's finished any of his wins. The fight against Ayman Zahabi wasn't great either, quite honestly. So yeah, I mean, I don't love it, but I get it. It's business. It's business.
Yeah. You have one fight left on the deal probably, and there you go. See you later, Javid Basharat. Now, kind of the last bit of news here from this fight night that I really want to talk about. Jakub Vikwac. I believe that's how you pronounce it. It's fucking tough, man, but buzzer beater submission. Maybe some of the worst fight IQ I've seen there. That one damn second left. What was your just impression on that fight in general?
So look, I like Vikwac, or whatever the hell his name is. I watched his last Octagon fight, and I follow a guy on Twitter. He's a Polish MMA fan. And like, he just covers Polish MMA. Like, that's it. Like, he's got like his profile picture is Jan Blachowicz, obviously, Polish national hero. And he had tweeted like, "Yo, you gotta watch this guy." So I was like, okay, like, and he just blew through whoever in his final Octagon fight. He's basically just like a crappy Renier de Ritter. Like, that's kind of what I took away from it. Like, he's long, he's lanky, he's a little goofy. The striking's not all the way there, but it's there enough. But just a complete blunder by Muin Gafurov. Like, I thought he was up 2-1. I thought he was going to win the fight on the cards. Just dives his head into a guillotine. And obviously, like, we can talk about the controversy a little bit. We talk about bad reffing so much that when there is good reffing, it's important to point it out. And I thought they did an excellent job of, it was clear, in my opinion, on replay that he had tapped before the horn. Merab tried to make the excuse that Munin tapped because he heard the horn and he wanted to get out of the choke, which is the stupidest thing I've ever heard. But they did a good job. They went to the replay. They watched the review. Herb Dean goes, shocker. Herb Dean goes, yo, he tapped before the thing. They go in there and they get it right. So, yeah, it was a weird fight. He's exciting. Like, he'll be fun for a while, as he might not even get ranked, but he's going to be fun. Like, the guy can take a beating. He's, weird grappler. He's got some weird striking. He's huge. He's totally not a middleweight. Or bantamweight, excuse me. But I was really impressed with the video at the end of the fight. Good refereeing, and when you see good refereeing, it makes me hope that there will always be good refereeing.
Yeah, there was no doubt on earth that he tapped before that clock expired there, and I thought it was pretty funny. Like, you see his reaction when they, like, he knows he tapped, right? And he's like trying to play it off like, "Oh, what do you mean? I didn't tap." But yeah, clear tap out there. Jakub Vikwac, I will say, man, like, I picked this guy now twice, both of his UFC fights, both times he hit as a dog. So I think something about me and this guy, we got a good connection going on here. I'm I'm a fan of his. 2 dog shots. Like, come on now. And I'm curious to see how good he can be here in the UFC. Like, because he was a guy when they signed and he was slated to fight Patchy in his UFC debut. Like, he was a pretty highly touted prospect in a sense. Like, you were talking about, you follow your Polish MMA guy who's shouting him out. So, like, he's a guy that crossed my desk, but prior to him being in the UFC as well. So, not everyone do you hear about prior to their UFC tenure beginning.
There is an argument that he probably should be 0-2 in the UFC. I did not think he won the Patchy Mix fight.
No, that's true.
And he shouldn't have won. But win? It's 2-0. Just win. But like, you know, if we're looking at this next year and he's 2-3 and he's getting cut, are we going to be like shocked? Probably not. But
that's a good point as well.
Win, baby,
good
win.
Point as well. Now, moving on. PFL Dubai, Usman Nurmagomedov subs Alfie Davis, looks absolutely phenomenal. And we were texting after that fight. I know you're one of which you're one who thinks that Usman Nurmagomedov is towards the top of the world in general amongst the lightweights. One fight left on his PFL deal, or it'll expire by the end of 2026. So if he does not get a fight by the end of 2026, his deal expires and he is a free agent. I'm expecting him to sign with the UFC following his PFL contract expiring. Where do you see him fitting into the top of the UFC lightweight division?
I have for a while considered Usman Nurmagomedov definitely a top 10 lightweight in the world and probably top 5. I think the contract thing is tricky, and I will be curious to see if it is as black and white as I'm just going to go to the UFC, because in my opinion, with the stuff that's going on with Francis, he is probably the most valuable asset in the PFL right now. It's him or Dakota Ditcheva, in my opinion. And I think it's probably him. Like, they're allowed to go to Dubai every year and can sell a card in Dubai every year because they have an undefeated Nurmagomedov who's like could make a claim to being the best lightweight in the world. I don't think he's that good, but I think he's really good. So I will expect that the PFL will chuck lots of money at him. I don't know if it'll be Francis money, but it will be some serious money. I'll be curious to see if he takes it or not. Obviously, that camp doesn't need money. If you slated him in the UFC, I tweeted on my Twitter on Saturday afternoon after he won that I would say he's the 3rd best lightweight on the planet. And I think after some more consideration, I feel pretty good about that. So I believe that Ilia Topuria and Arman Tsarukyan, until I see something otherwise, are the best 2 lightweights in the world. I think what Ilia did against Charles, I think what he did against featherweight and just moving up, like, it's going to be tough to pick anyone against Ilia Topuria. I don't think that's a hot topic. I think Arman Tsarukyan is right there with him, right? Hasn't lost since that weird split to Islam, and then that weird loss to Mateusz Gamrot, and that's it, right? Like, he's legit, beat Charles Oliveira, blew through Dan Hooker last year. Those are the top 2 guys. But everybody else, the Holloways, Oliveras, Pimblets, Gaethjes, I think Usman Nurmagomedov I would pick to be any of them because he's just so impressive everywhere. You watch him on the feet, he moves like he moves like Michael Venom Page. He's got beautiful kicks, he's got beautiful range. And then you watch him on the ground. I read this article from shout out Open Note Grappling. He basically did a choke that's like never been done in MMA because he's doing an arm triangle choke, but he's doing it from a condensed position where you're not all the way cinching in the choke, and he basically turns his hips to get it. He's creative, he's destructive, he has knockout power. He's incredible.
I will say, man, so first off, I do think it's as black and white as he will be in the UFC. I think Islam Makhachev moving up obviously opens up that door there at 155 pounds. And I think that this team, Nurmagomedov, I think they're one of accomplishment, one of achievement. And I don't think the PFL belt is enough here for Usman Nurmagomedov. You've been there, you've done that. It's a belt that really doesn't hold much meaning, to be quite honest with you. There's not a lineage behind it. And I think that they're a team that cares about lineage. And given that Khabib has held that 155-pound belt then to Islam, I think that is something that Usman Nurmagomedov will want to hold above his shoulder, wear around his waist. Now, the question is, can he sneak in another PFL contract before signing with the UFC? He's still pretty young. So if you were to sign on a 3-fight deal here, you very well can squeeze in 3 fights, right? And then be signing to the UFC come 2027, mid-2027. Who knows? So I guess it doesn't have to be now. I just really think this is the right time for Usman Nurmagomedov to make that move. Now, looking at the UFC's lightweight division, I will put Max Holloway above Usman or Nurmagomedov the more I think about it. I know when we initially were talking, I was like, yeah, I can see him fitting into that 3 spot. Max Holloway is a tough fucking matchup for. I guess he's a great counter wrestler as well, man. Like you don't see him getting bulldozed there. And him at 155, like I am very, very high on Max Holloway as a lightweight, as an actual 155 pounder. He's experienced a lot of success there since actually moving up. I guess really it's been that Dustin Poirier fight, but he was a legitimate 155er for that Gaethje fight as well. So I think he's an absolute motherfucker at the 155 pound division. But Charles Oliveira, I think, is a pretty good matchup for Usman or Nurmagomedov. I think I would favor him over Charles do Bronx. So I guess that 4 spot is where I have Usman Nurmagomedov slated in. Now, staying on the topic here of the PFL, Andrew, the welterweight division, very, very tough as you have a new champ there, steps in for the vacant belt, and then Ramazan retires after winning the belt. What is going on, man?
Yeah, it's pretty unfortunate for the PFL. Obviously that was actually a pretty interesting fight. You and I both enjoyed it. There was that illegal knee in there, and there was I know your dog difficulties or whatever, but it was a fun fight. And it's brutal when you have a vacant welterweight championship. Ramazan Kuragomedov wins the vacant welterweight championship and goes, you know what? I think I've done everything I need to do. But there are options at welterweight still in the PFL, in my opinion. So, I will be curious to see where they go from here. I kind of want to hear your opinion on that. We have spoken about potentially some middleweight or some middleweights who could move down back to 170 pounds to make that division interesting, but just an unfortunate set of circumstances. You're trying to build a weight class back up, and then the dude who's holding the belt retires. But hey, there's that G name out there that I think needs to be mentioned.
Dude, that's the thing. And the PFL, like, I think that they really, really wanted Shamil Musayev as their champion. Like, that was the guy to, be the 175 pound champion for him. And he goes in, and it just sucks that they don't even get to build up a name off the loss there, right? Like, you just have the retirement. And now I think Thad Gene is the name. I think they do want to get Thad Gene the title. And the question is, do they go back to Shamil Musayev after they just saw him lose? I don't know what you think there. Like, do they go Gene Musayev?
I think the only other name on the PFL, and I'd have to check, my PFL welterweight rankings are a little shaky, but I'm pretty sure that the other Russian, Magomed Umalatov, is up there too. I think he's 18-1. I'm going to check. He was supposed to fight Logan Storley, and that fight got canceled. Yeah, he lost to Shamil. Shit. You're in a tough boat. I think, you could just do Shamil Thad Gene. I don't know. You want Thad Gene holding a championship. You and I both spoke with Thad. He's a great guy. He's charismatic as hell. Doesn't matter who he beats. You need him to be the welterweight champion. He's the guy right now. He's your sellable figure. Guy sold out Atlantic City. Like, that's what you need to do. You need to get Thad Gene the welterweight championship. I think he's still banged up.
Why am I blanking on the name? The fight that ended via Splinter, but London card. He's not even on the rankings, but
Austin Baki.
Yeah, who
when he oh my gosh, the French guy.
Yes. He's not ranked. He's still that I don't know what's
wait, we'll get it. His name is
that's the one where like he is on the roster. That is a big name. I know he sold out the O2 over there in London. So like, but if you're not putting him on the rankings, what do you mean to the promotion that
Cedric Doumbé?
Yes, Cedric Doumbé. So like, what strikers like? What if you go like Thad Gene versus Cedric Doumbé over there in London just to fucking blow the roof off? And
why not?
I don't know.
Why not? Look, I love PFL, man. I'm trying, but they need exciting stuff. Like the Pittsburgh booking between Brian Battle and Eblin is perfect. Has Brian Battle done anything to deserve the number 2 middleweight in the PFL right now after he barely lost his belt? No, of course not, obviously. But Brian Battle is a massive name. You've got a huge middleweight title fight coming up. You just need exciting stuff that people are going to tune into, and people will tune into Cedric Doumbé versus Thad Gene. Great. I love it. The title's vacant. There's no rules.
Yeah, and the other thing is that it's like a new title that like doesn't really mean anything, so you can kind of give it to anyone almost in a sense where you can kind kind of have a little bit of wiggle room there.
You could promote that, Gene. He already has the welterweight tournament strap. You could be like, nobody else has a strap. We're going to promote him and have him defend. I don't care. That's the name. That's the name.
Yeah, no, I agree there. And speaking of the PFL, while we're on the topic here, I know you wanted to talk about their new media rights deal. I believe it's an international one. I'm not too well in depth, too well in knowledge here. So do you kind of want to go over that deal and what it means here for the PFL?
Yeah, just thought it was important to highlight. There's two in particular. The first one is probably more notable and bigger than the second one. So in China, Migu TV is like the premier sports TV. They have the English Premier League. They have most of the Chinese ping pong. They have the Chinese Super League. They have the CBA, the Chinese Basketball Association, and they've had the UFC for quite a long time. Like if you want to watch UFC in China, you need to go through Migu TV. And the PFL just signed a massive, massive deal with Migu TV to get all fights on the PFL televised on Migu TV. That's gonna be a big deal in an emerging market like China. Just spent 4 months there. MMA is growing there steadily. More people were talking about that Zhang Weili Valentina Shevchenko fight than I had expected. It was a big deal over there. Obviously, you can see Song Yadong's been put in some big spots. Li Jingliang was kind of the championing force over there for a while, so that's a huge one. And then the other one that they signed was just with Movie Star Plus in Spain. Obviously, PFL has a massive card in Spain coming up in a couple weeks with their brand new champion, Costello Van Steenis, who we just kind of talked about a little bit. He's fighting Leon Edwards' brother, Fabian Edwards, for the title. And they will have all PFL fights streamed on Movie Star Plus in Spain. So you can slowly see, like, my biggest problem with the PFL for a long time has been nobody can watch it. We couldn't watch European fights for a long time. The Canadians could not watch the fight last weekend. Like, that stuff cannot happen. But you can see they're starting to build it a little bit. So we'll see. We'll see.
That is good to hear. And speaking of Van Steenis there, and also Johnny Eblen and Brian Battle, how pissed off do you think Johnny Eblen is that he didn't get that rematch booked after kind of just botching that fight, and now knowing that Brian Battle will get that fight if he does beat Johnny Eblen?
Well, as we just spoke about with JAILTON ALMEIDA, you need to either be really exciting or win. And Johnny Eblen did not do either of those things in his last outing. Look, he's a great fighter. He's one of the best middleweights in the world. He was one of the best welterweights in the world, but he didn't win. And so when you give the opportunity for the PFL to put in a guy like Fabian Edwards, who just had an incredible knockout, by the way, they're going to take that chance. If he beats Brian Battle, he'll fight for the championship. So it's all still in front of him. Would I be a little frustrated? Sure. But don't get choked out with 8 seconds left. You won't have that problem.
No, good point there. Good point there. And now kind of circling back.
Easy for me to say. Guy's gonna beat my ass in Pittsburgh now. That's gonna be the problem.
No, that's fucking great. Let me clip that and throw that on the Instagram and tag him.
At Johnny Eblen. This kid's gonna be a media day.
That's fucking hilarious. Now, I did a little foreshadowing earlier, just sort of talking about the UFC welterweight division here and talking about how some fights need to get going. Now, a few guys have put out on social media that they are in camp, 2 of which being Ian Machado Gary and Carlos Prates. Obviously, you're assuming not fighting each other. We've seen that fight prior. I don't see any way on earth the UFC rebooks that. Now, how do you think these guys are being matchmaked? If 2 of them are in camp, that means 4 are.
So I actually do not think either of them are fighting Islam Makhachev. Ramadan starts next Wednesday. He will be out probably until June or July. He does not train during Ramadan if you don't need, like Movsar Evloev is because he has to. But the reigning welterweight champion of the world does not need to, right? So I don't think Ian Gary or Carlos Prates are fighting Islam Makhachev, and I also don't think they're fighting each other. I think you're exactly right. We saw that fight less than 12 months ago. No reason to run that back right now, at least. Now, I would have told you 3 weeks ago that I think one of them is going to be fighting Shavkat Rakhmonov. He is now out for another year, which is just the most devastating thing in the world. We talked about that, on my show this weekend. So if I were to bet, I think that I know there have been rumors about a Perth card in May. I would presume that one of those men is fighting Jack Della Maddalena at a UFC Perth fight night in May. And I would presume that the other one of them is fighting Michael Morales. I would probably think it will be Gary JDM in Perth, and it will be Morales Prates. But I think you can't eat that Reese's anyway. I think those 4 guys are the clear 4 guys. And then you got Kamaru Usman, I guess, who's just fighting for the title. But that's what I think it'll be. I think it'll be Ian Gary versus Jack Della Maddalena in Perth in May. And I think it will be Carlos Prates and Michael Morales in April in Miami, if I were to put chips on it right now.
Yeah, man, I don't think I can disagree with you here. And the one thing I do think is kind of funny, though, is I have seen Jack Della Maddalena say that he wanted Carlos Prates next in a 5-rounder. I know a lot of people have been saying that they want to see Michael Morales versus Carlos Prates. I think that's the fight that I want to see the most. Like off the top of my head, there's probably another one in the promotion that I'd rather see over that, like maybe a John Jones versus Alex Bejeda, sure, or Ilya versus Islam, sure. But up there with them, honestly, in this moment is a Michael Morales versus Carlos Prates fight. Like that just sounds like so much fucking fun. So I hope that's the direction they go in. But I guess what I kind of find funny about it is that you don't hear anyone really matchmaking Ian Gary with these guys or really wanting to matchmake Ian Gary with these guys. So I'm curious to see which one of these Ian Gary is fighting. And then as far as Kamaru Usman goes, I do think they are gonna make that matchup with Islam.
Look, I am higher on Ian Gary than most. Look, he is not as exciting per se as those guys, but his resume with Shavkat Rakhmonov now out, if you were to say who was the most deserving person to fight for the welterweight title, I think it's Ian Gary. Ian Gary has the win over Carlos Prates, right? He's the only guy out of that little 4 that's beaten another one of them. He has the win over Bilal Muhammad, and like win over Michael Venom Page. That's impressive. Win over Jeff Neal. That's impressive. Like, look, he's not exciting. And I think one of the reasons you see, guys obviously yapping him and whatever online, but he beats you and he doesn't make it look particularly interesting. And I think he is probably, JDM's pretty good too, but I think he's probably the best out of those 4 guys, right? Like, it's a tough matchup, but any way you eat it, Gary, JDM, Gary Prates would be stupid, but Gary JDM or Gary Morales would be wildly exciting. And then Usman Makhachev, look, like it's not the top of my list. I get it. I know how they're going to bill it. It'll probably be on the White House, quite honestly. It's fine. I don't know. It's fine. Whatever. Islam Makhachev competing is impressive wherever he fights. Like, it's fine.
That's true. I don't know if it'll be in the White House because I don't know if they'll want an American getting fucking ragdolled by a Russian on the White House card, like on Trump's birthday. So like, I think that's like, I think Trump's gonna have a lot of say almost. Like, obviously he's not the one matchmaking, but like, I feel like he'd be fucking pissed seeing an American lose to a Russian on the card, and I think like Dana White knows that, right?
What do you think Justin Gaethje's going to look like on that White House lawn?
At least it's a Georgian Spaniard, I guess, opposed to a Russian or like an Englishman.
So I'll pitch you this. I'll pitch you this question: who has a better chance of Anu, Kamaru Usman or Justin Gaethje?
No, it's actually very interesting, man. Kamaru stylistically, it isn't that crazy. I don't know, dude. Islam's the best in the world, but then Ilya is the second best in the world, and like, I guess you can make the argument of like a puncher's chance, and Gaethje being like the bigger power puncher. Can he KO Ilya? I don't know. I lean to believe that the betting line will be slimmer on a Kamaru Usman versus Islam Makhachev fight compared to an Ilya Topuria versus Justin Gaethje. So that's kind of why I lean Kamaru Usman, just thinking about it from a Vegas perspective.
That would
Where
be
do you
great.
go on that?
Usman. I think Usman.
You think Usman has a better chance?
I don't think either of them win. I think Justin Gaethje is just an absolutely atrocious stylistic matchup for Ilya Topuria. If he looks like he did against Paddy Pimblett, he is going to get absolutely destroyed. And I know some staff rumors, injury rumors, fought a different fight against Pimblett. Ilya will beat the shit out of you. Like, it will be bad. And like, look, I don't think Usman will win either. But at least like you feel like maybe he could stop some takedowns. He's just old, right?
Yeah.
His problem is just they're both old. But Usman, I think, definitely has a better chance of like not getting knocked out flat on their face. Like,
yeah. What about that? Yes. What about like a Gaethje head kick though? Like we saw Gaethje head kick Dustin Poirier. Ilya slightly susceptible to a head kick potentially. Like that's kind of what I'm thinking. Like, can you land something like that? Is that more realistic than somehow Kamaru Usman outpointing Islam Makhachev, dude, like, I don't know. Islam's not losing, bro. Like, I don't think he loses to any of these welterweights, dude. Any of them. He can run through the top 10 fucking. You stack the top 10 and he fights every 3 months periodically, like remove Ramadan, remove whatever, fucking make Islam Makhachev active. I think he runs through the top 10. All 10 of them.
Like, I agree, but there are fights for Ilya and him that I need to see. I need to see Arman Tsarukyan fight Ilya Topuria. I need to see it. I don't think Arman beats him, but like it's close, right? It's not a Gaethje where we're just going in there being like, what round is he getting knocked out in? Right? It's close. Like, I think I'd pick Islam to beat Gary. I'd pick Islam to beat Prochazka and Morales, but like, they're dangerous, right? So like, my one problem with the Usman matchup that exists is like how does he beat Makhachev, right? Like, you're right. Like, Gaethje could just kick Ilya in the head. I don't think it's gonna happen, but it could. I don't really know how Usman beats. Like, if JDM isn't gonna land anything on Islam, like, is 38-year-old Kamaru Usman with no knees gonna? But I don't know. They're fun. They're the best two fighters in the world. They should be fighting as much as they can.
Yeah, and the other thing is, like, Usman clearly is not going to out-wrestle Islam Makhachev at this age. He's not going to be able to out-grapple him once on the ground. He's not as dynamic of a striker. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, man. I mean, I don't think it's a good matchup either of them. But you and I also do not think that those respective matchups are the best possible matchups in the division.
No, yeah, no, you're 100% right there. Like, Michael Morales, in my opinion, is the most dangerous matchup for Islam Makhachev. Now, most deserving and who should be fighting for it, it is Ian Gary. I am in agreement with you there, and I don't really think you can make too good of an argument for anyone outside of Ian Gary. Michael Morales is the matchup I'd like to see the most. I think that matchup poses the most threat. I think Morales might be able to counter wrestle decent there, and when they're on the feet, you're scared you can put him out at any single second there. Where I don't think Ian Gary necessarily poses that. Like, I'm not, if I'm an Islam Makhachev fan, I really am. And if I'm sitting there watching Islam fight Ian Gary, I'm going to be honest with you, I'm not nervous at any point, really.
Yeah, in a way where you are, because you watch Michael Morales run through Sean Brady. I 100% agree. It's a danger versus skill matchup.
Yes, exactly. And before we do get on out of here, there has been one other announcement I would like to talk about, and it was TKO CEO Ari Emanuel. He announced on Pat McAfee show that there will be 6 to 7 fights on the White House card. Dana White has said that Mick Maynard is flying in and they'll have the card ready to go by the weekend. I want to kind of hear some fights that you think will be on this White House card. I know we've talked about it a little bit, but do you have some that you'd like to toss out there as potential matchmaking or potential fights for that card?
It's such a tough question because we have no idea what they're looking for. But I will give you an answer, of course. So I would have told you that Michael Chandler versus Conor McGregor is the fight that made the most sense. I really still have no idea why they're not doing that. Dana has said publicly they're not, so they're not. I don't think you need crazy championship fights on the White House card to sell it. The White House sells itself, right? And people keep criticizing me for this, but like, what are the two biggest cards in the last 5 years? The Sphere, which was O'Malley Dvalishvili, like fine, but like whatever. And then 300, which was Pereira Hill. Once again, fine, but like nothing crazy. Like, are clearly not the most hype main events in the past 5 years, right? So like, I still kind of think that it would be a disservice for Conor not to headline that card if he's serious about coming back. He's the biggest star in the sport by a mile. Still, by a mile. So Conor against whoever. You want to do Conor, Nate 3, I think that makes a lot of sense for the White House lawn. Like, people would tune in. You don't have to like blow any of your amazing championship fights for that. I think that makes a lot of sense. If you're not going to do that, I think you have to go to the John Jones well. But once again, Dana has said he doesn't want to go to the John Jones well. But like Jones Pereira for the interim heavyweight championship would be awesome. Like, and there's no, like, you look, I love Tom Aspinall. He might be my favorite fighter in the sport. You cannot sit here as a Tom Aspinall fan and be like, it's a disservice for them to do an interim championship. He's been out since October. He probably will be out till October. So those are the two ones I would go with, but they've both been shot down. I'd be curious to hear your opinion on those before I give you like what I think will actually be the main event.
I was really hoping for John Jones, to be quite honest with you. I think that fight with Alex Bejeda would have been absolutely phenomenal. Before that, you'd wanted that Tom Aspinall matchup, but obviously, it doesn't really seem Yeah, like I don't even want to fucking go down that whole rabbit hole right now, but I was excited about the potential, but to see him fight Alex Bejeda, I really wanted to see that. Now with Connor, to be quite honest, the matchup I wanted to see the most that was kind of thrown out there was the Jorge Masvidal one. I just thought that was a really interesting matchup, and I don't know who I would pick. I would probably actually lean Jorge. Yeah, I think I don't fucking know, dude. That's just such a weird curveball of a matchup thrown in there. I know they've talked in the past and that was teased, but like when that one was said, I was like, man, that's actually like way more interesting to me than a Michael Chandler fight. Just not really too inclined to see Michael Chandler fight anymore, to be quite honest with you. But it doesn't seem like I don't know who. It does seem like Connor's gonna fight, right? It seems like Dana White is saying that, but who? I don't.
Yeah,
that
I have the
don't
exact
know.
same thought. Dan Hooker was my idea, or Max Holloway if he loses.
Like do they go loser of Charles versus Max? Maybe.
Sure.
Like
Why
you
not?
could do that. I don't know, man. Like he does only
At
like to fight
170.
150. He likes to fight 155 pounders at 170. So like that probably would make more sense than thinking of a 170 pounder for him to
What do you
fight
think of
there.
Nate?
So
What do you think of
I would be
Nate?
fine with Nate as well, to be quite honest with you. Just like get that trilogy done with him. I don't even care to see Nate
2026,
Diaz
bro.
fight, but like just fucking just get it done with. Fucking see you later. Nate by sub. I don't know. It'd be pretty funny.
Probably, actually. Probably.
Like I don't know, man. But if you're gonna ask me about like what fights I think very well should be on this card, and I'll just give you a couple here. Gable Steveson versus anyone, check that off. One other one that I think is an absolute must to be on this card. Please give me Sean O'Malley versus Corey Sandhagen. Like, if you're coming out there and you have Gable Steveson open up this card, and you give me a Sean O'Malley versus Corey Sandhagen, like I would be so fucking pumped. And those are the quality of fights here. You got two Americans, get those guys banging on this card. Like those are two that I very much do want to see on this White House card.
I would love that. I am kind of curious to see if they give O'Malley the title shot, and they could do it on this card. Like Jan O'Malley too is a wildly intriguing fight. O'Malley headlined the Sphere. They clearly think very highly of him. Like he could 100% be on this card. I think he has to be on the White House. Corey, another American, right? So that would be quite fun. Love the Gable Steveson shout. I think that's actually like more likely than not he is on the card. Like makes 100% sense. President Trump has already been at the, he lost, but at the NCAA wrestling championships last year when Stevenson's last ever wrestling match, like that would be great. That makes 100% sense. I'll give you another one that I like. Josh Hokett versus Steve Asplin. I don't know how much you know about those guys.
Yes, actually, I do like that one.
American matchup. Would love to see that, right? Like I think you want to put like American, like you want to make it an American thing. If Joe Pfeiffer beats Israel Adesanya, I expect he will want to make a quick turnaround. I had also said that if he loses to Izzy and Sean Strickland loses to Fluffy, you do Joe Pfeiffer, Sean Strickland at the White House lawn. That would be nuts. They might have some worries about putting Sean on the White House card, but that one makes a lot of sense. But gun to my head today, the main event of the UFC White House is Ilia Topuria versus Justin Gaethje.
I knew you were gonna say it too, man. And but
it's not a good look for Team USA. But
that's what I'm saying, man. If we're capping off the night, fucking face down on the White House, like
America sucks.
Man. Like
I don't. I mean, unless you go Makhachev Usman, which doesn't go any different.
Here's the
Connor.
thing.
The answer is Connor. Connor's not even American.
The answer is John fucking Jones. The answer has to be Johnny Bones Jones, and it has to be versus Alex Bejeda, and you can even put it at a catch weight of 235, throw a BMF belt on those motherfuckers, and just
do anything.
Yeah, man.
That's awesome.
Like if you were to tell me that they're fighting, but like heavyweight's one thing, but if you were to tell me they're fighting at a catch weight, right, and you can even make that catch weight what John Jones weighed in at for his last fight, it adds intrigue. Weirdly enough, I don't know why it does,
but do it for an interim championship. See, I would love if they did it for an interim title. You could do it for like a USA belt or whatever, because then at least you set something up for the worst division ever. Like at least, okay, then we know we're at least getting 2 or 3 fights that are really good. You've got Aspinall gone. If they're going to do that again, I kind of think they should. You've got the Jones Pereira thing, and then the winner fights the winner. And like, okay, we've got something like that. Bought us a year and a half until Gable Steveson gets there, right? Like. There's some stuff. So if you're going to do it, I think you have to slap something on it. but I don't see why they don't go Gaethje Topuria. Like from the US, like from our perspective, Gaethje's gonna hit the canvas, but like that's an American who loves the stars and stripes. They clearly think highly of Justin Gaethje and Ilia Topuria because they wanted Ilia Topuria to main event the first Paramount card, and he couldn't do it, so they went to Justin Gaethje to main event the Paramount card with Pimblett. So like that's kind of where I think they're gonna go. Would I be shocked if O'Malley Yan 2 was headlining that card? No, I wouldn't actually. The White House sells itself. So I think I worry. It's like, here's the one issue with the Conor, and a couple people have made this point, and it's an excellent point. The White House, they're selling no tickets and they don't do pay-per-views anymore, right? So if you put Conor on the White House, you are making no gate money at all from your biggest star. Why would you put Conor on the White House? I know he wants to be on the White House, but besides that, why would you put Conor on the White House when you could have him headline International Fight Week like 3 weeks later and sell out T-Mobile or sell out like Allegiant? You can do whatever you want with Conor.
I think the answer there is because there's going to be a lot of fans watching this fight that haven't watched mixed martial arts or maybe a UFC event prior. And I think it's just a showcase. You throw your biggest names on this card. You throw the most outrageous Irish guy that made everyone fans. And you're thinking with just all these new eyes that it's just inevitable that whatever percentage of them will end up following along the sport. So I think that's probably the thought process behind putting McGregor on this card, because there really isn't any other thing I can think of. I'm trying to like play devil's advocate there.
Topuria McGregor, 170 catchweight. Why not?
I'd be completely fine with that. And the winner fights Islam.
There's no Americans. There's no. Well, I mean, like, okay, so like you could do. I saw the interview this morning with Islam. You could do Topuria Makhachev. I don't love it at all because there's like so many. Like now you have an interim title at 55, and you've got like we just talked about it, 5 guys at welterweight that deserve to be fighting for the belt. But like, and neither of them are Americans, so maybe it doesn't make a lot of sense. It's probably the biggest fight you can make right now that doesn't include John or Conor, but. At the end of the day, like, okay, what if they did both the Ilia Gaethje and the Usman Islam? So then you got like 2 Americans fighting for the title. Maybe one of them pulls up a big upset, and like then you just load the card. You have your pound for pound number 1 and pound for pound number 2. You've got 2 American title contenders. You could throw Sean O'Malley, Petr Yan on there too. There you go. And you got 3 title fights. You got 3 American contenders. One of them will win.
Well, dude, I do think they do plan on throwing a lot of title fights on this card. Just, dude, there's 1 championship fight booked right now. Is there even?
No, there's no championship fights.
There's none because the one booked. Yeah, there's zero legitimate. There's been 1 championship fight this year, and through the first 3 months, there will be 1 undisputed championship fight through 3 months, and there's nothing on the schedule. So like. They're holding back all these fights for a reason, and how many of them will wind up on the White House card? Also, someone who we completely missed over here. I mean, I know she had to pull out to the Amanda Nunes fight due to a neck injury. I know she had neck surgery, but Kayla Harrison, if she is able to return by a miracle, come the White House, that is the perfect person to throw on that card as well. I don't think it's necessarily likely, but
I would love it. It made more sense. I thought it was stupid that they booked the fight in January. Because I was like, I think they just booked the fight in January wanting to do the rematch for the White House. I think she's going to be out till like October, November. It's bad.
Yeah, I thought it was going to be like a 6 months.
That made that like she is an actual. She's probably the best pound for pound American fighter on the planet.
Yeah, I mean, she's the only champ, so I mean, you can't really argue too much. And with Justin Gaethje being the interim, I don't know if that's what we're going to. I don't know if that's what we're going to as our backup. It's Gaethje. I mean, I'd almost, there has to be better Americans in this, but I'd almost rather go like Corey Sandhagen if we're going from a pound for pound skill over Gaethje for the Americans.
Who is? Ooh, okay. We'll end this one. We'll see what the chat says. Who is the best pound for pound
American
fighter?
I mean, fuck, man.
John Jones.
If you count, if we're counting John
Jones.
Okay,
so we won't count John. Yeah. Okay.
If we're not counting John, dude, like it very well might be like Corey Sandhagen. Unless you're going like, all right, Sean O'Malley or Corey Sandhagen. I favor Sandhagen over O'Malley, but like the 2 bantamweights.
Is there an American? Oh, so
Max Holloway
is the only American in the pound for pound top 50.
Max Holloway was the one that, yeah, it probably is Max Holloway. Actually, that was a dumb answer saying Corey Sandhagen.
No, it's not. It's not a dumb answer because I guess Max beat Justin, right? So
Yeah.
Max? Really? The number 4 ranked?
It's Max and it's Corey slash Sugar Sean O'Malley, I guess.
So Strickland's ranked number 3, but like he's gonna get just rolled next week.
Yeah, dude.
Oh man, I don't know. That's an excellent. That is so bad.
It's tough, man.
Charles Oliveira wins. There will be no pound for pound top 15 American fighters. But I think the one point that you do make is excellent. Is look, it's been a slowish start to the year, right? There is so much to look forward to. Like, who is Khamzat Chimaev fighting next? No idea. What the hell's going on with 205? No idea. And 205 can be great either permutation. Olberg Pereira, great. Olberg Prochazka, great. Fine. What's going on with welterweight? What's going on with featherweight? What's going on with flyweight? So there's stuff to look forward to. There's stuff to look forward to.
Definitely, man. There's a lot of good fights that are about to be made. We're about to hear a lot of good news. And with all that being said, Andrew, that's all I have for us tonight. I want to say thank you very much for joining me tonight. It was an absolute pleasure, man, and excited to, get together next week and, talk some more fights.
I cannot wait to get this thing going, man. We've been talking about it for so long. We needed to just get it done. Shout out to you and the rest of the guys, man. There's an excellent article that you guys should go read right now. Zach, go plug the article.
Yeah, check out the article written by Dan DeLeeds, highlighting a very high-level prospect out of Philly, out now on the Around the Felt Sports website, covering Jeremiah Delgado, who I will say I firmly believe is future UFC talent. But make sure you check it out. Drop a like, drop a sub. Everything's all greatly appreciated. And have a great rest of your week, everyone.
Peace. See you next